You being a practitioner turned academic, can you give one story that where you have broken the illusion positively or negatively that no, it's not going to be this way. You need to think through in this way. Where your own life experiences has helped to give that sharp lesson.
Just that life is not a sprint but a marathon, and there will be a lot of things that you will go through, and that's something that you should enjoy as you go. So very often my students have this belief that any career is something that will happen in a very straight line manner.
The reason I am dwelling upon this question is, see, one of the objectives for this channel, as I see, is to give confidence to people to take decisions at crucial junctions or at junctions where I think it's very difficult to take or people think it's difficult to take, right? And you have taken such decisions. So I think you are giving us very valuable lessons, Professor. Dear viewers, welcome to Illuminating Conversations. Today in studio, we have Professor Giridhar, who's Associate Dean for Online Learning at XLRI Jamshedpur. His role as a professor is only one of his many identities. And that is one reason why Professor Giridhar is in this channel today. His life, as I see it, has taken many interesting turns and events before he has taken up this current role. And that journey could be sharing many valuable lessons for all of us. The many decisions he had taken, the emotions he had crossed, and the way he had balanced whatever he is doing today with other fields of interests which we will converse about. They are all quite interesting and illuminating. So I'm sure we are going to have a quite engaging conversation. So welcome, Professor Giridhar.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Prem, for inviting me to the conversation, and thank you for having me here on the platform of Illuminating Conversations. Hopefully, the conversations that we are having are going to be illuminating for some, at least, and that's the hope that I have as we start.
Yeah, definitely it would. If we are going to walk the talk as to the turns and events that whatever I gave an introduction about, then really, Professor, it's with you to completely tell your journey. So that will give merit to my introduction. So in your own way, can you share your journey and how you are here today?
Sure. So the journey, like you said, has many twists and turns and many ups and downs, and that's how I think anybody should look at any journey of life, right? So very often my students have this belief that any career is something that will happen in a very straight line manner, right, and possibly at a very high slope. So, and that's exactly what my effort has been to share with them as they start their journeys after college, is that life is not a sprint but a marathon, and there will be a lot of things that you will go through, and that's something that you should enjoy as you go. So coming to mine, I'm born in Ernakulam and raised mostly in Chennai. My father was a career banker and mother is a homemaker, and brother has been for a long time in the BPO space, currently in a leadership role in one of the largest BPOs. And my journey has been like any other middle class family. You go through school and a lot of extracurricular tuitions while at school, like Hindi, singing, instruments, and all of that. And after my college and the MBA program, I landed at Ford Motors financial services firm, which was actually a new venture of Ford in India, where it were introducing the idea of captive financing, which is the motor company tries to help the customer with the finance options instead of sending them to another finance company next door, right? So that was how it was started, and I was part of the starting team at Ford Credit Kotak Mahindra, and that role actually took me. I started out in Coimbatore, and then that role took me through Coimbatore, Kerala, and Bombay, and so on. And while I was there in Bombay, and since it was a part of Kotak Mahindra, I also got exposed to Kotak's other activities, and one of them was actually a dot-com startup. Right? And I was very interested in dot-com because that was the flavor of the season at the time, and I really pushed my managers to let me experience that and move into that role. So that happened with a lot of reluctance, that I was allowed to move there. And while I was there, and this was a startup which was in the content aggregation space, and the .com bubble had its burst, and that had its impact in this organization as well. And so this company also did not do very well. So I didn't have the face to go back to my bosses and say, "Can I join back?" So I looked around and I joined Toyota in Bangalore, where I was on the other side of the table, right? So earlier I was the finance company guy helping the motor company people sell. Now I was on the motor company side helping the setup of all these debt captive finance opportunities, so that people coming to the showroom have a one-stop shop for all of that. And we also facilitate financing for the dealers, so that they are not really stuck with cash when it is needed, right? So a combination of wholesale and retail financing at Toyota. And this journey went on for a couple of years, but um, I was particularly not very excited about what I was doing, and I had almost set up everything and trained my team member for doing all of it. So I was almost redundant, and that was a time when the role of business and the intersection of business and IT became very interesting for people, right? How can we be at the intersection of business and IT so that we can really leverage IT for business? So keeping that in mind, I started looking out for furthering my education, and fortunately, I got an admission at one of the very good universities in the U.S., University of Maryland at College Park, for an MS program, and then it took me there. Interestingly, while I signed up for the program, I really did not have any assistance. It was pretty much a loan that I was banking on from my dad. But I went there a month before the program started, went around and knocked at the doors of every professor, every office, trying to find a way to fund my studies there. And just as luck would have it, if Monday was when my program was starting, on Friday, the Friday before that Monday, I landed on my assistantship with a professor in electrical engineering department, who actually wanted somebody who had so much money that he wanted somebody to manage the finances that he's having. Right. So then, interestingly, he wanted me to manage his research website. I had no clue of HTML, which was what was needed, but I didn't want to say no, so I said I know. And then went to the library, picked up HTML books, and over the weekend started studying, and that's how the whole journey started. So, and then one thing led to another, and then I moved from that professor to another office in the same institution, and got a better sponsorship and better assistantship. And net, essentially, what happened was that my whole program pretty much became free, right? So I spent about 2 lakhs or so in the whole program, which is substantially low compared to what we spend now. And while I was there, when I was finishing the program, and I started, like everybody else, I was starting to apply to opportunities in the US, and I also landed in one very supposedly good role, right? So it was with a telecom service provider called Nextel, which is now Sprint Nextel, and there I joined as a business analyst, and I was supposed to be working on pricing models, etc. But essentially, what I ended up doing was pulling data using SQL, right? So that was what I was doing, and I didn't see much change happening for me. And since I didn't have any significant reason to stay back, I was not particularly fond of the American way of life. I also did not have any loan on my head. So I started looking for roles in India, right? And luckily, I landed on talking to somebody in Bangalore, who and his friends had just started an analytics company in the marketing space. And so I had an interview, they sent me case studies, I worked on it, and then they recruited me, and I ended up joining them. So that I joined the startup Marketix in late 2004, and it was a good run till 2009. It was a startup, and it was a startup with, I think it was way ahead of its time in a lot of employee policies, way ahead of its time in terms of how they looked at client engagements. So we did some very good quality work. We worked with top marketers in the US, did some great analytics work for them, and helped generate a lot of value for the clients. And it was like a learning every day. Like every day you would be excited going to work. So, but then all nice things unfortunately come to an end. So the organization got acquired by a large BPO, because the founders wanted to exit, and they said to take it to the next level, they would rather want somebody more experienced, right? So, and that happened, and then I and many others actually moved out of that organization because we felt that it was not the right space anymore. So I continued in the analytics space. I joined Dell in Bangalore in the consumer analytics space, and was with Dell in the I was in the marketing analytics area for the consumer and small business analytics, and I joined, and I was tasked with starting a team. So I joined, and then I worked and then built a team and all of that. But in the whole process, what I realized was that as I was getting more closer to senior management, I realized that what I really liked was more flexibility, more autonomy, and not really being in the rat race of designations, etc. So then I looked and I thought, what would that be? And academia looked like an answer. And especially that was the time when the sixth pay commission had actually taken effect, and so the compensations were substantially increased than earlier. So it looked a little attractive, but then I realized that I have to have a PhD to actually get into a good B school, and it has to be a good program. So I weighed my pros and cons, and then I decided to actually quit and join a full-time PhD program at IIT Madras. So interestingly, that was 6 months after my marriage. So my wife, my father-in-law, my parents were all obviously really surprised and shocked, but very, very supportive. My father-in-law was the most supportive, actually. He thought he's going to get his daughter married to somebody who's a senior manager in Dell, and life is settled. And then 6 months down the line, he's unemployed. So, and my wife was really, I'm really lucky. My wife was really very supportive of that decision. And then we moved from Bangalore to Chennai. So moved from a 1700 square feet house to a 350 square feet house, and with 1/3 of what we had, and then we carried on from there. I really liked I was kind of dabbling around on what should be my research area, but finally struck on something which I really liked and I continue to like, which is the area of communities, how people come together for their interests, not from a caste or religion or that kind of an identity, but from an interest identity, like bicycle clubs or bullet clubs or book clubs and so on. How do people come together and form a community around their shared interest, and what does that community end up doing to them individually? How does that start benefiting them? What are the benefits that people get, and what makes them stay in the community, and what makes them leave the community? It was a very, very interesting process. I got to spend time with multiple communities. I rode with them, I swam with them, I read with them, I laughed with them across the country. And that gave me an opportunity. In fact, I also had an opportunity to make a film, and I screened it in an international film festival in terms of how communities really help people. And once that was almost coming to an end, since the end was not, it was near, but still it was clearly visible, but not near, right? So then I changed my status and I joined Ford, which is nearby campus. Luckily, Ford offered me an interesting role. I ended up heading the manufacturing and supply chain analytics team for Ford there, and again got some very good work done in for the 3 years that I spent there. But in that 3 years, my PhD got over. I convocated, and then I started looking out for a academic job, and then ended up at XLRI. So that's how I reached XLRI. And like Prem was pointing out about the multiple journeys, it was not that my industry career was floundering, or it was not that I really was not finding my feet in that place. It was more about what I thought will keep me active and fresh for the next 30 years or 40 years, right? So, and that's where I thought
Professor, that is very obvious because you have taken decisions when you were like sounding prime in whatever you were doing, right? In every turn that you mentioned. So,
right.
If I have to sum it up till now, see, you did say a marathon, and indeed this is a marathon. Yeah, the way you said it, the way you summed it up, it's pretty exhausting for me as the first viewer to listen to the story. So to have lived it, my God. Okay, so you did point out in the beginning itself that your students, as you see today, they think it's their career, what they look forward in life is one straight slope up, right? And you yourself are giving evidence that it is not so. It is full of ridges, right? And that ridges were because I would think of that as a contemplation and exploration, right? At every point of time, does this suit me? And exploring what are the options, and if it needed an investment, right? I would say that it's a plane. You walk the plane, right? You were not just going up, right? In some corporate career ladder, and so you had to walk into a fresh path, then start climbing up again, or go not climbing up, going towards another place, destination, which would be of potentially interest to you, right? So, Professor, first, what gave this attitude? Was there something in your childhood that made you um, what do you call? I shouldn't use the word prone. That made you a person who's an explorer, who's constantly exploring and looking
Not
for things that will satisfy him. Right? Was there some catalyst or some event or something in your character building? Maybe that's the way you were brought up. So, what made you this kind of person who's constantly exploring?
I can't put a finger to it right now, but one thing is, I feel that there was in some way a need to keep proving myself, right? I think at some level that was there, the way we were all brought up, also something to keep proving myself that I'm good, or I can do things better. That is one thing. And the other thing is probably less of a growing up thing and more of an individual attribute of not settling for one thing. So just things are remaining the same for a long time, then I think I start checking what should I do differently or so on. So it's partly the way we are brought up, and partly I would say is my individual attributes.
Okay. You used an interesting phrase, wanting to prove yourself. So today, many races are being run in the world to prove to others. Rarely it is to prove to oneself.
True.
So I think that's a quite interesting thought. Thanks, Professor. Yeah. So let's explore the place that you have reached right now. So you are currently Associate Dean of Online Learning. So how do you find the space? What do you think of the space? What are its future prospects?
So online learning, I feel, is definitely the next frontier in education for business schools. So you are seeing, as we see right now, we are seeing business school full-time programs becoming costlier and costlier. The ROI, as you define in terms of my job at the end of the 2 years, not looking as rosy as it was earlier. Across countries, across these schools, we are seeing that the way MBA students are getting opportunities after the program is not as it was earlier. So that is one thing. The other thing is that thanks to COVID and such interventions, COVID was a bigger intervention. All of us have become more comfortable with a direct to device kind of a setup for learning instead of having to go and sit in front of in a classroom. Right? Number one. Number two. Number three is that this format provides the person an opportunity to study and apply, and so on. Instead of having the situation where I stopped applying, I am studying, and then I'll go back to applying. Right here, there are many stories of my students who are actually saying there are people who are startup owners, there are people who are managers who are saying that they are able to learn and apply what they are doing, apply their learning because of the format of the program, right? So, and obviously the cost of the program, because it is delivered online, is much less compared to a full-time program. A combination of all of these things, I think, makes this format definitely a lot more attractive, and it will become much more attractive in the years to come. I would say the format has evolved substantially in places like the United States. So, for example, Maryland, my alma mater, is actually its ranking in the online MBA program higher than the ranking in the full-time MBA program. And the university is great, and all of that is, it's a very good quality MBA, even if it's full-time. But they're, so what I'm trying to say is and then the employers have also begun to accept this format of learning, and not looking at it saying that this is something that people will not do just because the sake of it, and so they understand that people are investing time and all of that. So the format has evolved quite a bit in the US. In India, it's still in its very nascent stage, and the recruiter or the employer still thinks of it as a quick way by the student or the candidate to get a degree and possibly an alumni status, right? But in essence, actually, especially if it is going to be in a good B school like XLRI or Ahmedabad or any of those places, the rigor is very, very high. We don't differentiate between the student because of the format in which they are doing the program. So, and it is very intense, and for about 100 weeks continuously, the student is going to spend about 3 hours on a Saturday, on a Sunday, and a weekday in front of the screen and learning from the faculty. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of commitment, and balancing that with work and family is not easy. So in that way, so that the industry will start understanding and appreciating this in some time, and then it will see that this format is definitely going to see a huge upswing.
Okay. I'm hoping this podcast too will help the cause. Okay. So now let's link your life journey with whatever you're doing right now. So whatever your adventurous spirit, if I have to call it that way, or the exploration, is it helping you in the way you are designing this program right now, or doing your or taking your classes to the students? Does it have an impact? Do you visibly see the impact?
So my outlook to life, and how my journey has been, has definitely helped me present different perspectives to the students, and also help me connect well with my students. So in general, in the last few batches that people have gone through, I would say I have a fairly good equity, and people do appreciate what I share, and this sharing has been beyond my classroom. So for example, my sharing with them is around how they should starting from the first year. So my sharing has been on how should they prepare for their summer internship, and what kind of help they should seek. To once then, when they're coming back from the summer internship, what should they look for in the placement process, and how they should view the placement process, and not make it look like that's the be all and end all of life. That is one. And then other things around how they should look at life and so on. So, and in the campus as well, I take a lot of time to spend time with them. I try to be in places where they congregate, the campus cafe or the paratha shop and all of that places, so that I'm there when and they can, and I'm able to connect with them and understand more what they life is going through. So life for an MBA student now is very intense, and it has a lot of moving parts, much more than what we had when we were studying. There's a lot more competition, there's a lot more necessity to differentiate, etc., and do a lot of different things to show that this is my portfolio and this portfolio should be attractive for the potential employer. So there's a lot of things that they have to do. Knowing that and being aware of that and cognizant of their stress and pressure is something where I'm able to connect with them on different levels, and that I think is important for them. And so that's from a student life perspective. And from a teaching pedagogy perspective, I emphasize a lot on how to connect what I teach with what I have practiced. So, how did I solve a company's problem in segmentation using segmentation, or how did I solve a company's problem by doing classification? So there is a lot of opportunity for us to connect with examples and share what I did.
So case studies are not coming from some paper; it's coming out of a head, your experience.
And how we can integrate those learning, because life is not going to throw you saying, please do this classification, give me. So like, the problem is going to be a lot more vague. So how do we break down this business problem into an analytics problem and then solve the analytics problem and then put it back and then present it as a very nice story? So those are the things that I focus on, which is what I feel is important as they start entering careers in today's world.
Okay. So, Professor, I should say I'm envying your students because they are getting a gift of the academic knowledge combined with the wisdom of the practical knowledge. So that's brilliant. So let's look at further breakdown of how your journey is impacting others besides yourself. So you did touch upon your family. You were saying so they were quite supportive when you did the when you enrolled for the PhD. But see, at every corporate move itself, I mean, there should have been little jitters. A job change does involve certain newness, certain risks, in the sense that it is not something you were expecting for the last few years that you were working in a job, right? So some things could change. So in that sense, a new job is for a family could be little shaking up the space. So you had that in several jolts, right, before you reach the current position. So, so not only for the PhD, how did they take and how did they support you overall?
So the first big jolt was for my parents, right? Because I wanted to leave a job and go and study in the US with no job at the end of the study, looking at in sight. So that was first thing. The only thing in my way was that I promised them that they're not going to spend their money, and I'm going to come back with something better than what I was doing. So everywhere, I think at every stage where I invested time in myself, I was fairly sure that if things don't go the way I want it to go, I would still be able to bounce back. So there was that confidence in me that even if I didn't get a great job out after my master's program, I would still be able to do what I was doing. I don't think I will have a problem. Similarly, even if I did not get a job after my PhD, I thankfully I had enough equity in the organizations that I worked for that I would be able to find something without having to, obviously it won't be, a straight increasing function, monotonically increasing function, but I would still be able to bounce back without too much of a problem. So that confidence I had in me, and that is what helped in convincing my family.
Okay. So, in fact, I was about to ask it as a separate question, but you did answer that together. So, in the sense that how did you manage your own fears or anxieties about it? But you said you have, the way I see it is you have a backup plan in the sense that your equity that you had built yourself earlier would help you. That's the confidence you had in your mind before taking the decision. Correct. Okay. See, the reason I am dwelling upon this question is, see, one of the objectives for this channel, as you see, is to give confidence to people to take decisions at crucial junctions or at junctions where I think it's very difficult to take or people think it's difficult to take, right? And you have taken such decisions. So I think you are giving us very valuable lessons, Professor. Now, I'll go to something else that you were mentioning. You were talking about communities, and in fact, it was a movie. I'll probably give a link to the movie for all the viewers to watch. If you can give that lessons learned as well, it will be great. So, what role do communities play today in shaping us?
Yeah, that's a very, very close to heart topic actually. So, see, what is happening now in our society and pretty much across societies across the world is that the family is shrinking. And then what is happening is if you were doing your schooling and college in a particular city, and then you move from that city to go to a new city for work, and then from there again your career keeps taking you in different places. So friendships that are formed over time are not something that you are able to retain just because of the fact that you are moving away. You're moving away, you're not able to invest the time in those friendships. And you're not able to build connections with people easily at work also. It's not so easy to get meaningful connections at work. If you get, that's really a good thing. So what is happening is that we are not able to form connections meaningfully with people at work. We are also not able to get enough time to make those connections in the city that you are in or with people that you're having. And those we already have had very good friendships with, we are not able to invest time in nurturing those friendships as well. So people move off in your from your life, and all that happens. So now for any, it's a well established research that your longevity, your happiness, everything is a function of your social relationships. Now, this is where communities play a very good role, especially communities that are formed around interest groups. Like say the running community, the cycling groups, the bullet groups, the book clubs. You are getting into this community because you like cycling or running. And there are others who are also there because of that. So all your engagement with people are in a non-competing environment, and everybody is enjoying their stay in this community. So it's like a place where you are being on your own. It's a place where you are able to be without inhibitions. Right, you are able to be without inhibitions, and you are with people who are also genuinely interested in you reaching a better place, you becoming a better runner, you becoming a better swimmer, you reading more, and so on. There's that whole non-competing ecosystem, and the fact that they're all bound together because of a specific interest gives you an opportunity to build very, very lasting friendships, and that really helps people in creating getting back. So in sociology, this is called as a third space or third place. So what sociologists say is you need a tripod to actually balance life. One is work, one is home, and you need one more place to create a tripod so that you can balance life. Now, work and home are now such that you are going to either commute a lot or spend a lot of time there, so you don't get an opportunity to build something after work and home. After work and family, there's very less time available to specifically develop and build your relationships. So if you tie that with your interest area, which is going to be your cycling or a running or a bullet, etc., so you are also wanting to further your own interest, and in the process, you are building relationships. So those communities become the third place, and therefore the third leg of the tripod, so that
Okay.
it balanced your life. So that's where I feel communities now, especially interest-based communities, have a very crucial role to play in people's life in terms of how they can work on their happiness, their mental health, and all of that.
Okay. So let me take a hypothetical case, a person who's aged 40 and has moved multiple cities and really has only maybe school time or college time friendships, can now, by what you're saying, form new friendships, or should I say relationships, to sustain their interest in their life?
Sociologists have talked about this issue of especially migrant workers, like people who are professionals or otherwise, right? You graduated from college, you're going to Bangalore, going to start life there. There's work, and then there is probably you don't have friends. Then what? After some time, you start dreading your weekend because what will I do in the weekend? I can't keep going to the malls. I can't keep going to restaurants, and then nothing else. So then you need some way to connect with people, and so that is something that you are going to get by riding on your interest. You already have an interest. I have an interest in photography, or I have an interest in reading, or I have an interest in running, or whatever. Join a group, and by joining a group, you are going to get a set of people who are interested in you becoming a better runner, you becoming a better photographer. They'll be like They can be younger than you, older than you, married, single, doesn't really matter. But the quality of relationships, the quality of laughter and camaraderie that you see in those groups is fantastic. And that makes you want to keep going back to those communities because it becomes an addiction then. You start looking forward to those meetups. And
Okay.
that gives you the opportunity to build. And then I've seen that helping the families of those people as well, right? Because the families of members come together, they get connected. So it's really a fantastic construct.
Okay. Does this apply to the online communities as well? Because that's a norm today.
The online communities, there is to some extent you can see this, but the problem with the online community is that you're not getting the face-to-face connect, and then you're not getting the strength of the ties in online communities are not very high. The strength of the tie in a face-to-face community is much higher, right? So therefore, in fact, you have in online communities, you would actually find things like, find a lot of opportunity to learn new things because somebody is going to be online to solve your problem. So supposing I'm in a photography community and I'm going online and checking something, can this help me? Somebody is going to be available at the time to help you solve the problem, right? So that all that will help. But building bond is not easy. And in fact, in some situations, you end up having, because I'm not in front of you, I can even be not so nice to you as well, which really impact because see, there's something called as a Dunbar number, which is like what is the number of meaningful relationships that you can have with anybody. That number is about 100 or 150, I think. So in online communities, that the number of people is a multiple of like say 2 or 3 or 10 or 100 or so. So you can't have meaningful relationships with a lot of people. So you eventually end up being talking to a small set of people who then say, okay, why don't let's meet somewhere? So it ends up becoming a
Okay.
face-to-face interaction to further your relationships.
Okay. So whatever the technologies, at the end of the day, humans have to meet humans. Right?
Yeah,
Can I take it that way?
and the number being limited, so it's very difficult to be able to have a lot meaningful relationship with 1,000 people. So then it's going to come down to a smaller number, and that smaller number will find meeting face to face or connecting in a smaller group more meaningful than being in the larger online community. As the size of the community increases, its ability to be able to help people get form strong bond reduces.
Okay. Great. The great revelation. I'm sure many viewers would be now interested to watch the movie. Please do watch this movie. I have, and it is quite engaging. So now going back to seeing how your life lessons can be applied. So going back to students, right? You did say, for example, case study are much more easier with examples that you could pull out from your experience. So one thing that anybody has during education is, so should I say, preconceived notion or maybe some expectations, if I have to put it mildly. Okay. So you being a practitioner turned academic, can you give one story that where you have broken the illusion positively or negatively that no, it's not going to be this way. You need to think through in this way. Where your own life experiences has helped to give that sharp lesson.
So my course that I offer, a course called Marketing Analytics Storytelling with Data. So the course is set up such that you go through different method. Okay. So of course we anchor the method in the business situation. For example, we say all customers are different and therefore we should look at learning segmentation. So all customers change, therefore we should understand classification. So we anchor the method in the marketing principle and so on. And then but we still go through different methods. But I realized that what happens because of this is that it can slightly become overwhelming to the student. And therefore I spend 2 times in the course, take time to help integrate the methods. So so it'll be a question like this online streaming company is losing volume or subscriptions. What do I do? So then the question, then people start looking at, okay, what was the customer base? What should I do? Should I do a cluster analysis first and then should I do a classification and then do a recommendation system? So putting it all together in such a way that it answers the business problem. So very often people who have not had the opportunity to have provided a solution to the client are not able to help them connect all these methods such that it finally gives a solution. Because I have been on the other side and I've helped them to help the client and get the answer that they're looking for. Also, knowing very well the challenges that are there while doing it, I try to help them understand the whole process. And my biggest expectations from them is not so much as to know the method very well, but be able to ask the right questions so that we know what method to use and then know how to tell the story. So those two are things that I call them as the bookends of an analytics engagement. The bookends. So if you look at an analytics engagement, you start with understanding the business problem, and then the business problem you translate an analytics problem, and then you use different methods to analyze the data, and finally you get the insights, and then you have to present that insights or present the story so that action can happen. So these bookends is what I focus on. How do I understand the question and translate it an analytics question? How do I translate the insights and present it such that it is going to get the action that we want? And that I think is coming because of the time that I spent in industry.
That's brilliant. I think the both the ends could be well handled only by a practitioner. That's what I believe. The way you say it, brilliant. So, Professor, the way as I'm seeing you, you are constantly exploring. Should I say, you have been multifaceted all along. So I'm sure there is more to what we can see your current portfolio in online learning space in XLRI. So what else do you do?
Thank you for asking the question. And in answering that, I would want to first start with this thing that I strongly believe that I already come from a lot of privilege, and then therefore I should take all the opportunity possible to find a way to give back. Right. So a good part of my current situation is how much I'm getting as an opportunity to um, be involved in development activities in the district, and a good amount of it actually started while I have done what everybody does, like taking part in a fundraiser or giving arms to people. So these are all things that many of us will be doing. But having come to XLRA and exactly when COVID started, I had on a whim written to the deputy commissioner here asking if I could do something for the district beyond what everybody does, right? More money, more material, etc. So he also called me and said, let's do something. And we ended up was we ended up doing some really, really fantastic work. I'm really so glad I had that opportunity. So we did things like we built monitoring systems for understanding the flow of people into the district and outside, figuring out how to help them, track them, test them, quarantine if needed, and connecting multiple members in the chain, starting from the check post to the district personnel to the health personnel and so on. So then we got to work on building dashboards for vaccination distribution, figuring out ways to send SMS about test results on COVID, creating a communications campaign around the awareness for COVID precautions, and then we're building an online portal for oxygen concentrators. We had done something around bed availability during the second wave. There's a lot of things that we did, right? And then I had a huge opportunity, and I really kind of really lapped up the whole opportunity, I would say, in terms of working with multiple different sets of people in the district. And that really helped me understand what more can be done, specifically in a Jharkhand context. And so, subsequent to after COVID, I've been consciously working in different ways through students or otherwise on different projects, either with the district education office, the Jharkhand police, and the civil surgeon's office. So there are different places where different projects I'm working on, and I think it's thanks to my current role as a professor. I don't think this is something they could have done being a full-time working professional in any industry, and thanks to my organization for really supporting me on that. Right. So this is something that I've been doing now for a while, and then that has really helped me put to use a lot of my industry knowledge, right? Because all of what I learned around data or marketing or anything, I'm getting to use them here, and at the same time able to also help the students get projects that they can work on. They can also get an understanding of what how they can contribute in many of these. So some of my students have done some fantastic work for the police, for underprivileged children, in helping them set up online um, platforms for selling their artistic designs. They worked in helping develop communications around different aspects. So a lot of those things is something that I feel will be a. We are now in kind of a virtuous cycle. The more we are doing, more people are connecting with us to do, and then
Virtuous cycle. That's very interesting. Very, very brilliant, brilliant.
and I think it is a great opportunity, and I am really thankful that I'm able to be involved in it.
Okay, okay. See, when you started talking about your social contributions, I didn't know. Again, it will link back to your journey as well, life journey as well, and it did. The first thing is, see, first is thanks on behalf of the rest of humanity, the rest of our country, men and women, that you are doing such great contributions. See, beyond money and materials, which is usually what that floods during a emergency situation, uh, applying management knowledge, technical knowledge to help the situation is very important. And you bought that as well additionally. That is brilliant, because now there are plenty of management. There is a big management community in our country, and this is a good idea to all of them for investing their should I say knowledge or capabilities in this areas, which if such need arises again, right, or such things could be needed around them, they can look they can look around and do it. The way you said, you helped tracking, right, build dashboards for controlling, those are all important, crucial, life saving. And the second thing I'm really excited, when you said it is MBA students involved in social projects, that is brilliant. Because see, the way the most of the management educational institutions are training the students is to be perfectly fitting them into corporate career, right? So the power of management can be used for social causes, which you have already demonstrated, but giving a real life opportunity to your students to go in that path, right? So they have practiced, now in an academic situation, they will apply it in real life. So such exemplary talent being available for social causes is a big seeding of capabilities for the goodness of our country, or for not only of our country, for the whole of humanity in future. Right? The concepts of management should be applied for good causes like this. And I'm sure they'll be taking this learning, if they have seen people struggling and they have helped. I'm sure they'll be responsible corporate citizens as well. The decisions they take in their corporate life as well would be more moral or ethical. I'm sure that would be one outcome. I think this is really well rounding off, and as you said, it's a virtuous cycle. And if there is any cycle, it should be this kind of virtuous cycle. I'm really excited to know this. This deserves a separate podcast, but yeah, but I'll have to take it up as one show. A spotlight from me for all the viewers on this segment, right? So this should be definitely something that all the management experts should think of as to how they can channelize their strengths. Thank you, Professor, for showing us that. So, Professor, that brings us to the end of this podcast, right? So it has been quite exciting, and it is really difficult to contain this in a little small segment of whatever you have been saying. But yeah, the good things should come to an end. Yeah. So I'll wrap it up here. But I do want to ask you if there is anything you want to say to people at the juncture of when they are making crucial decisions. How should they manage their emotions? Right. So we did talk of a lot of things, but at that point of time, see, when you are about to make a decision, see, yeah, after traveling through that path, maybe we will relax, but it could be overwhelming when we take a major decision, which you have taken in plenty. So is there anything that we need to do to handle our emotions better when taking such decisions?
I think important thing is to look at it from a first principles perspective, right? So, are we, if I am taking a decision, keeping the emotion aside, emotions are important, not should not be taken away, but keeping the emotion aside, what the first thing is to figure out how, what is it that you can fall back on if the decision doesn't go right. So if and that is where I think your own, like I said earlier, your own confidence on what you and your own confidence on what you can deliver really comes to play. So if we are able to build our inner confidence, right? So then, because, see, the thing with, in my case, for example, let me say this, right? So, and this is something that I tell the students as well. So when they get out of the program, they're all belonging to a batch of 24, class of 24, class of 25, class of. So then what happens is, knowingly or unknowingly, they start looking at, okay, I'm earning X, the batch seems to be earning 2x or 1.2x, right, and so on. So then there's something that I'm having a problem, and then that goes on for a while, right, before we, and then that, so it's important for us to not look at those it the first thing is, everybody's journey is unique, and this is what I keep telling my students time and again. Everybody's journey is unique, and I share examples of a lot of people from our own batch to emphasize on that, and that should be the found. For the first thing is, yeah, looking at it from a first principles approach. Second, having confidence on yourself, and third, not understanding that it is your own journey which is going to be unique, and not looking at somebody's journey. I think these three should be able to help you in taking any decision.
Okay, that's quite insightful. Thank you, Professor. I think that's a wrap, Professor. Sorry, did you want to say
Thank
something else?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you
Yeah,
very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I
yeah,
hope it was exciting for everybody.
yeah. It would be, and it was a pleasure for me to host it. Um, See you then again, Professor. Hope to have you in another segment in future.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much.